What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys growing on you live. Today, we're going to be having on my dude, Mike P. Nelson. Finally, I'm so excited for this. We're going to be talking his all-new movie, Wrong Turn. We're going to be doing, a little bit of a speed interview today, a good half hour or so. We're going to dig into all things Wrong Turn. I'm super excited, his involvement. But first, I have to mention this month's sponsor, my dudes over at Studio House Designs, my Get Out t-shirt, absolutely amazing. This episode is sponsored by Studio House Designs, the purveyors of horror and VHS nostalgia, bringing you the coolest vintage-inspired horror movies, tie-dyes, long sleeves, and not to mention the VHS stack t-shirts. If it doesn't have that Studio House Designs logo on it, it is not legit. I'm telling you, check them out. I absolutely love them. My dude Cody, my girl Erin, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Aha, Mike!
Hey!
Holy, what is going on, man?
Oh, not well. Just doing a whole lot of interviews.
Okay, nice.
So sorry, I'm a little late. They just got a little bit behind this morning, but
good?
I'm here. I promise you, I am here now. I'm all yours.
Look, man, thank you so much for your time. This whole process has been absolutely amazing. I absolutely appreciated, getting to dig into the movie a little bit early. Now being able to talk to you, and we're gonna talk Wrong Turn today, my dude. I'm so excited. Thank you for your time, first and foremost.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. No, I'm super excited. This is great.
Let me ask you first, before we dig into that, being a fan of horror, yourself, tell us about how you were introduced to horror films.
Well, it's so funny because my dad's gonna hate this because he I think he wishes that he had nothing to do with that, but he has everything to do with that. It was my dad. It was my dad ultimately. At a young age, he showed me. I mean, he was the one to show me movies. He showed me the Indiana Jones films when I was very young, Star Wars. Monster Squad, and then of course, just the classics, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Earth vs. the Flying Saucers. Like we would go to Mr. Movies or Blockbuster, and we would go to the horror movie section. Now we weren't allowed to go to the horror movie, the section of where like Texas Chainsaw and all those, but we could go to the classic section.
Okay.
And so anything that was black and white or was from the 50s, like that was fair game.
Okay.
But then you had me, who when they were looking at movies, or my dad ventured off to another section, that's when I would sneak to the bad section. And that's when I'd pick up all of the VHS cases, and I would just look at them. I'd look at the backs, and I would just, because I knew I wasn't allowed to, I wouldn't ever be able to watch these movies. I would just imagine what would happen in each one of these movies. And what's funny is my imagination always made each one of these movies 1,000 times worse than what they actually ended up being.
You're
So
right.
when I saw so many of them when I got old, so when I turned 17, I was kind of the good kid who, yes, I snuck some R-rated movies growing up, but I was like, I'm not going to go, but wild until I'm 17. And sure enough, 17, 18, and I just started hitting it hard. I was just like, I was just like, I just wanted to watch everything that I knew I missed,
Right.
when I was younger. And I did. And it was so interesting. I was just like, I was like, for some reason I imagined that Texas Chainsaw would have been so much more bloody and violent, but it wasn't. And it really surprised me, and it ultimately played a huge impact on me as a filmmaker, because I was like, it actually felt more effective in that regard. So yes, going back to your question, it was definitely my dad who introduced me to movies, and then of course me going off and discovering more as I got older.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. So now talking, your new movie, Wrong Turn. First of all, just kind of paint the picture as far as how you were introduced to the material.
Okay, so 2017, late 2017, my manager Noah Rosen sent me a script. He was just like, Mike, we're looking for a new project. I had since Domestics, I had been pitching projects and been getting a lot of no's, and I was like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? I was it was hard because I was trying to figure it out, and I remember getting Wrong Turn. I was like, oh boy, okay. wrong turn, here we go. And he goes, no, Mike, this isn't like the sequels. This is written by the guy who wrote the first Wrong Turn. This is Alan. And my manager reps Alan as well. So he was like,
Oh, sick. Okay.
this is interesting. He's like, just have a read. Okay. Went in with a pretty open mind. But definitely not as open as as it should have, because I read this thing and I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. Oh man, guys with like skull masks and like deer horns. I was like, if you've seen Domestics, like I'm all about wearing like dead animal heads on. I love that shit. And then suddenly like shit goes crazy. And I'm like, what is this? Like, this is not the Wrong Turn I was expecting. Like, and I thought I went in with an open mind, and I was like, whoa. And so honestly, I finished the script, and I had to sit on it for a few days because I was like, what? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And that was the thing, was I was just like, would this actually work? Because I think we're so used to seeing, we'll say a remake or a reboot, follow pretty much what the original movie did.
Yeah, right.
And of course, like a different vision, and things are slightly different here and there, and there's maybe a slightly different twist here, but it all kind of wraps up in a very similar way.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't that at all. And I couldn't remember the last time like I had seen really anything like do that, like especially like an IP like this really go in a really crazy different direction. I mean, really, since like you think of like a movie like The Thing or The Fly, which I mean, those movies really did something different, based as like a reimagining.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, this is really interesting. And I talked with Alan McElroy, the writer, and Robert Kulzer, who's the producer at Constantine. And I mean, after talking with them about like their sort of like, this is what we wanted to make something. We want to make something super bold, super unique, something that completely goes in a crazy direction. They just wanted to do something bold, and I was like, gosh, as a filmmaker, that's to have that opportunity where that team is so on board to do something kind of batshit and take that risk. I was like, I want it. And so they're like, put together a pitch. Pitch the freaking movie. And like I remember I flew out there and met with Robert, and he knew me because I pitched him a shark movie and a slasher movie, and they were both too weird for him. And, and in the room, like of course, like when I pitch, like I'm like on the fucking tables and I'm like killing people and like with air knives and like and so like when he heard that like I was interested in this, he goes, wait, is this Mike Nelson, like the guy? He pitched me that slasher, and he pitched me that crazy shark movie. And he goes, oh yes, send him in. And so went in, lightly pitched the movie, some of my ideas, and he was like, okay, this is really interesting. I like where your head is. He goes, put together a full pitch for me now, and then we'll talk in like a couple weeks. Went back, put together a pitch. Didn't fly back out. Just we got on the phone. I started talking through my ideas. I think I sent him a couple things, like some mood boards and just some images, and took him through how I saw and heard the movie and how I looked at casting and all that stuff. And after a solid hour and 20-minute, conversation with him and his producing partner, they were just like, there was this quietness, and then suddenly it was just like, so yeah, that sounds great. Like, we want to do this with you. And I was just like,
nice.
And again, so it was like, and after all these kind of fails after Domestics and not being able to find this gig, and then finally getting a yes, it was just like this relief. But it was also like, but it's on this project that's so unique, and that's what was incredibly special. So
wow. Okay. And and one thing I have to touch on, that's great about the horror genre right now is the revitalization of the practical effects. Bringing that in, and with Wrong Turn, you hit it, my man. Let's talk about that. When you're initially, what were some of the early ideas of some gags that you wanted to throw in this bad boy?
Let's see. For me, I mean, it's always about creating the most kind of realistic portrayal of something, you know, especially with violence that you can on screen. For me, it's not. I like practical effects, but I'm also in the mindset where I'm not like the gushing blood guy so much. Like, I love when violence strikes you and it strikes you hard, but like sometimes, like when there's not the almost cartoony explosion of blood everywhere, there's something that feels a little bit more uncomfortable and a little bit more real about it. And for this, it was about always utilizing some form of practical effect, and then how can you take and slightly manipulate and augment, like with compositing. So for instance, like with one of our characters gets completely smashed, and I think we've all probably seen the still that's been plastered on Instagram and in Fangoria of poor Gary just like completely smashed. That was a full-on prosthetic body that I had our prosthetic effects guy Ryan Shadley, who's Minnesota native just like myself, who I was able to bring onto the project because he's amazing. And we set that in there, you know, smashed a log up on it, photographed it, and then we brought our actor Verdun back into the scene, put him there, you know, photographed him, took a bunch of still images, took some film images of him, and then we took the body, which was just contorted and twisted, and the jaw was out and the tongue's hanging out, and and it's just gross. But there's just, you know, there's something a lot of times about practical effects where the eyes don't always look incredibly real. So then we went in and we took the shots of Verdun that were really him in that same position with the same camera position, and our effects wizard at Technicolor basically cut out Verdun's eye and a little bit of his face here and a little bit of his hair and some of his nose, and they just composited that onto the actual like real life prosthetic that was on set, and it just makes it feel like it's actually him that's crushed. and that is one of my favorite ways to do prosthetic effects is, you know, when you give just those slight little details, those slight little enhancements, there's just something amazing you can do and something so real.
Absolutely. You know, and that's one of the funnier things too, is mentioning with that is, you know, and the image is online as well too. I didn't want to get into any spoilers or anything, but there's something, you know, when you look at that and it's just this like kind of like really quick flash image, there's something about these like lifeless eyes that makes it that much more creepy. And so it's funny you bringing that up, because I was like, man, that there's just something about like in the emotion of it, even though it's disgusting, you know, it's like, oh, that's it pushes it next level for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you almost it's like you as a person, you're thinking to yourself like, gosh, I really like get into like making this stuff look really gross and nasty, and what does that say about me? Oh, whatever.
Yeah. We'll leave that for another day. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
That was funny. And I wanted to bring into, you know, as far as like the whole scene, you know, that was in the trailer where the group is running away from the fallen tree rolling down the hill. How was, you know, how did the stunts and the effects, you know, how did that all work as far as, you know, filming that?
Yeah, so that was always a tricky one. I had never done quite that big of a VFX shot, so now we'll jump over into like the VFX and CG, because I think everybody was a little nervous about that. I'll be super candid about it. There was like this sort of, okay, how do we achieve this? We are very low budget. We don't have the money to do really what the script is saying, but that could actually make it even cooler if we use our wits about us, you know? So it was about like thinking about what you could do to create that feeling of dread, that feeling of fear. And I think for me, the way that I pitched it and the way that, you know, they kind of signed off on it was, what if we spend less time focusing on this tree, which was a very, like, it was in the script, it was like this big presence, and it was just always there, and it was chasing them, and it was, you know, taking out trees, and you saw everything that it was crushing. And I was like, what if we use sound and perspective of our characters. And we stay always in the perspective of our characters, to create that feeling of dread and fear. So we're not making the log a character. We're not like, we're not getting off to a CG log rolling down the hill. We are with our characters, and we see their expressions, their reactions to it. And that allowed us to, then know exactly what shots we needed, which was, I think it's only 4 shots of the log. It's like through the cell phone, the one where Jen is running and it's almost going to crush her, one quick little like whip, like that pass by the camera, and then the one that comes towards Gary.
Okay.
So like we broke down how many shots we actually needed, that we would be able to afford. And of course Technicolor was awesome, because I loved working with them, and they made sure, they're like, Mike, don't worry, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna make this. This is gonna look awesome. This is gonna look awesome. Yeah. Thank goodness we had Kevin from Technicolor there to kind of keep everything, in play. But then it was just about then going to our stunt team, headed up by TJ White, who's an incredible stunt coordinator, and his team, and then just beating the crap out of them, and just letting them just like toss themselves over. I mean, we shot them over and over, rolling down this hillside, hitting trees, bouncing off of trees, like flying up in the air and landing on their backs, and then rolling and somersaulting again, like scorpioning. Like it was absolutely mad. And but to me, that's what that, and then of course the magic in the editing room with Tom Elkins, who, I mean, Tom Elkins, he's the freaking guy. The stuff that he's been a part of, the stuff. I mean, he cut Annabelle and freaking The New Child's Play, and worked on Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code. Like this guy knows how to push it together, and then he crafted this scene of just disorientation with all these different people running down, and this shakiness, and we're doing, we're doing we amp up the grain. We're doing this we change the shutter effect, the shutter angle from like 180 to 45-degree shutter angle, so it's just like fucking Private Ryan up in your face. And then you're just kind of like, oh my god, and then that's how we got it, and that's how that scene became more about this insanity and this disorientation and this fear, more than it became about a giant CGI log.
Wow, yeah. I mean, and it definitely it pulls off. It works. I can say that, because it's one of those things where you're already tied in with the characters. You're comfortable. You're kind of like you're starting to care for them, and then they're going through the situation. You have this tightness in your chest, like Jesus, like come on, man, make it out. Just roll a little bit further and make it past this thing. And
I know
we won't spoil anything further, but yeah, unfortunately, that's not quite the case all the way through.
Yeah.
Let me ask about, as far as what went into the Booby Traps, from just the script to drafting ideas to the building team and actually making these for the movie. What went into all that?
Well, that was fun. There was a handful of the Booby Traps that were in the script, and they were already so cool, that we're like, well, let's, there was, the punji steak pit. It's like, all right, well, yeah, we want to keep that one in there. There was the swinging, the big spike ball. We're like, we got to have that one. And, it was like figuring out, we needed to know, like, what the Foundation's MO sort of was, like what their style, what their vibe was. And, I think that a lot of that started with me just like creating this lookbook. Here, let me get it here. I can show you a little bit of this. It was basically this old photo album from like the early 1900s that I got. I took out all the old pages and repaged it here. It's just this thing right here.
Oh man!
Yeah, since then the antler is broken off, but it's just this thick book full of images. And what it was, here, I think I could just turn the camera around here, was then you go through it. And so what I did, I just did some calligraphy on the pages, and just in images, talk about the history of the foundation, and then show the pictures of, like, prior to the Civil War, what they may have looked like going up on the hill. And then you had our land, this is their land, that they live on, that they inhabit, in Appalachia. So a lot of that. And then our settlement, this was like, inside their settlement. And this is what, Rochelle Berliner, our production designer, and I really really started to talk about is, what pieces of these things are we, let me turn this around again. What pieces from are we going to take from this? So we talked about, like, pre-Civil War, Civil War stuff that, like, they would still have. We talked about, like, Norse things, Scandinavian things, Viking, things. We talked about Native American settlements, all these things. And then, of course, just legit mountain men from that era, and what they would have used to survive. And that created the kind of vibe of the foundation. So then we go back to the traps that then, enhanced how, these traps would look and what they would be using to create all these things. And then it was sitting down with Steve Tolan and his effects guys in Ohio, and sketching these things out. And these guys did incredible sketches of these things. I'll send them to you. They're just awesome. And that's what they all ended up being, was what these sketches were.
Damn.
And it was so that was a lot of fun to mess with that kind of stuff.
Wow. I mean, and it's such detail and attention too. Oh my God, that's crazy. Wow. How long did it take to make that book?
It was probably over the course of like a month of just not 8 hours a day a month, but like, you're gathering images and you're weeding things out, you're placing things, what looks good, what feels right. Because ultimately too, the book, if you look through it, it also lightly tells the story of our movie and how and where the movie gets to. So it was all these things and putting it together and making it feel right, and then using that book to give to all of our departments on the film to look at and really understand what the movie is supposed to feel and look like. And the movie feels and looks like what we did.
Yeah.
So it's something that I love doing in pre-production, and it's just invaluable.
God damn, that is. I mean, excuse me, I'm trying not to swear a whole ton, but Jesus Christ, that is fucking awesome. Damn, that is sweet. I mean, as far as just like with the attention and the focus that went in on something like that. If you guys end up putting out like a special edition or something, that would be sick to include some of the scans from that, because that is really, really cool to see. That's awesome.
Well, what I hope to do is, once the movie's released next Tuesday. I did a short video of the book. Like I shot it from like a down shooter and put some music to it, and I flipped through it, and then you get to see all the images, and you can kind of see sort of how the foundation was formed and where I got a lot of the ideas from. And I'll post that video so everybody can see it. Again, I don't want to. It doesn't really spoil too much, but I also kind of want it to be like this cool thing that we're able to release once people have been watching the movie and get to have another perspective.
Man, that is awesome. That's sick. Yeah, and I mean, somebody just mentioned as far as having it be like a cool a coffee table, a coffee table book there too. That you got some ideas for merch here for it.
Well, just a little Easter egg. The book actually does make an appearance in the movie too.
Okay, I was going to ask. I wasn't quite sure.
Not only was it like supposed to kind of just be this lookbook for everybody to look through, but it was supposed to feel like a prop that, it's like the first prop of the movie. So when you hang on to it, it's like, okay, like this is part of the movie already. Like I understand, I can feel like the leather, I can see the inscription, I can, I can smell the old pages, that kind of thing. And so and again, without giving too much away, it's in Venable's cabin, sitting on his desk next to his pens, underneath all the pictures of his relatives. So if you watch the movie again, watch for that, and it's sitting right there.
Nice, nice, awesome, awesome. I love that. Let's touch on as far as some of the practical yet unnerving garb for we'll say the Beast's aesthetic. Tell us about working with Outpost 31, Ryan, and the rest of the team to make this vision come to life.
Well, I also have to mention Gina Ruiz, who was our costume designer, because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
she basically gave. I mean, she was the one who designed these these amazing costumes for these Foundation warriors to wear. And so you have Ryan and his team who molded all these real skulls, wolf skulls, boar skulls, elk skulls, deer skulls, moose skulls. Um, Molded them, and it was like not all the skulls are put together in the actual way that the skull would actually be in an animal. Like, so wolf skull, for instance, was like this kind of piecemeal, almost like if Leatherface made a mask out of bone kind of thing. And that was kind of like a Lego challenge. Like, it was like taking all these pieces and how do they fit and how does it actually work on a person's face, because the wolf skull is so small. There was a lot of figuring out what would work both practically for the actors to wear and what would look cool. But ultimately, we didn't go through a lot of like, well, that didn't work, let's go on to the next one. First of all, we didn't have a lot of time. Second of all, we didn't have the budget to just like throw a bunch of money away into this. So like we had to figure it out and make it work. And I think that was a testament to both Ryan and Gina and their crews about figuring those things out and how to make those things not only work and look cool, but then talking about Gina, how she blended those masks into then the costumes, and then how they blended into the woods around them, and how they felt old and used. And yeah, I mean, awesome stuff. Like, again, walking into the office every day and seeing those things become what they became was always like such a treat.
Oh yeah. And I mean, even to say the set design as well, looking at different things, everything felt so used, so worn. I know, I believe it was your page that you had posted up a couple of things just as far as, some of the buildings and some of the sheds and different, everything felt so organic and so real too. So, I mean, as far as, shout out to the team for, putting in that effort and it working, that's even better.
I mean, the fact that like literally our production design team and our art directors and our builders, they were still working on the Foundation set all the way up until like a moment before we called action to shoot there. Like, they were like finishing the last minute touches, like putting the grass on the roofs. Like, they worked. I mean, they used every single second that it wasn't raining, which thank God it wasn't raining that often there. But when it wasn't raining, or when they were there and they were making that little, like, that part of that town or that community like what it was like. And like I still, like, I'm super indebted to them for doing that. And still, like, and I just remember, like, we're setting up camera, and there's still like art director, like, just like doing the finishing touches and like printing the grass and like and we're just like, oh my god, and Rochelle's like, we're done, all right, bye, and then we just and then we just it was great. Well, I mean, 26 days of shooting, and you have a movie that's like, that has so much shit going on in it, and you're just like, you have to use every single second.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Look, honestly, I could talk to you for probably another hour about this. I believe this is our time, and I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I really, really appreciate you taking the time, Mike, and I appreciate the movie. I have been spreading word on my page, and I hope everybody watching this and watching, my YouTube video when I put it up, checks out the movie. Thank you so much, man, and great job. I loved it.
Well, thanks. I've been looking forward to this interview for the longest time. Like, ever since you reached out on Instagram, I was like, this is one of those ones I'm gonna love this guy. like this is gonna be fun. I feel like we have similar brain things going on here.
I love it. Look, man, once this kind of wraps up and everything, I'd love to have you back on and be able to talk a little bit more about it after the release and such. So hopefully we can get that set up.
Reach out whenever, man. I'm here.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Lo-Fi Horror Guy, Mike P. Nelson. Check out Wrong Turn next Tuesday.
All right, see ya.
Dun, 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 dun. He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.